Hello, welcome to another question and answer session. I'm Dr. Toyin Ali. I'm the founder of the Academic Society. So these question and answer sessions are based on questions from the graduate students in my Facebook group called the Academic Society for Grad Students. So every Monday, I have a post go live in the group asking if anyone has any questions about grad school. So the questions that I'll be answering today are the questions from this week and last week. Okay, let's jump right in. By the way, I will include a link for the Facebook group in the description of this video. I'll do that after this video is done being live. Okay, so the first question comes from Michelle, and the question is, how does one go about selecting the best graduate program involving 3 disciplines? I want to attend NYU, Steinhardt, or Galton. I think that's right. Or no, Gallatin. Any suggestions would be much appreciated. As you can probably tell, I don't know anything about any of these 3 schools, but I can share a bit of advice about selecting a graduate program to attend. All right, so the very first thing that you want to consider is what you want to study. So this person mentioned having 3 disciplines. And yes, there are interdisciplinary graduate programs. There are programs where the professors are studying kind of interdisciplinary topics, but typically, if there are 3 overarching topics, it may be difficult to find a graduate program that focuses on all 3 together. All right, welcome everyone. I see that you're just joining the live chat. I'm going to answer the questions that were pre-given to me from my Facebook group first, but I will answer the questions from anyone live here. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Okay, so one thing that I do want to note about what you study in grad school versus like your career or what you do as a faculty member. All right, the research you do in grad school is not going to be the research you do forever. So it may not actually be possible to find a graduate program that covers the 3 topics that you want to study in graduate school. You may just be able to find a program that marries 2 of the topics you want to study or even just 1. And that is okay because graduate school is temporary, right? Once you have the degree, you can pretty much study whatever you want, right? You can build upon what you did in grad school in your career. So when choosing the best graduate program, I would say start with the biggest or most important topic that you actually want to study. Figure out what schools and which researchers and professors are known in that field that you might want to work with. Then reach out to the graduate students in that program. So you can always ask the person who works in the office. You can ask the graduate coordinator, ask the person who works in the office for that specific department, and ask them to connect you with a current grad student. When you meet with that current grad student, you can ask them about their experience in the program. What is required? What are the classes like? Are we going to be researching come year 1, or do we have to wait until we have a certain amount of coursework done? So every program is going to be different. So you want to hear that firsthand experience from a student in the program. You also want to ask about graduation rates. Are people actually graduating? Is there enough, or are there enough advisors to work with, right? Is everyone working with the one advisor or is it kind of like a more balanced thing? So there's a lot of background information that you need to decide on what graduate program is a best fit for you. Also, one other thing to note about graduate programs, it really isn't the reputation of the school that you want to go by. You want to go by the reputation of the department or the research program. So the big like fancy name schools like Harvard, MIT, Stanford, NYU, things like that. They're probably wonderful schools, probably. They're wonderful schools for undergraduates, but depending on your field, it may not be the best school for you. So for me, someone who's interested in math, I probably wouldn't go to NYU. I would probably want to go to Michigan because they have a very, very strong program. They have a lot of math research going on. So you want to look up discipline-specific graduate programs and see how they rank for their programs, not for the school overall. Okay, I hope that was helpful. All right, the next question that I have is from Leah. What tips or advice would you have for someone interested in applying to a PhD program? I'll be starting my third and last year of grad school in mental health counseling. All right, so interested in a PhD program, my first question would be, why do you want to get a PhD? Are you loving what you're studying? Do you want to study more? So for me, I was like, I love math so much. I want to learn about math for the rest of my life. I do kind of think that either that must be the case or the career you want requires a PhD. I think those would be great reasons to pursue a PhD. I would say a not great reason to pursue a PhD is because you want the letters behind your name or you want the doctor in front of your name. Not great reasons. There must be a deeper reason. You love the subject, you want to make some type of change, right? You want your research to help the world, help the environment, help sick people, things like that. Help communities, help the community where you're from. So, one, there must be a deeper reason. And then let's see, I would also say make sure you are building connections with your professors that you have currently because you will need great letters of recommendation. And if I only barely know a student, I can only write a so-so letter. And I usually say no to those students. If I can't write an amazing letter of recommendation for a student, I will typically say no because I always like to rave about my students in my letters. I have read so many lackluster letters of recommendation. I'm like, do you like this person? Do you want them to get this job? So you want to build a relationship with the professor or the research advisor that you have. You want to build that relationship so that they actually know about you and they know about your work so that they can talk about it in your letter. And then also, same advice as before, looking for fit. Like, what specifically do you want to study? What kind of research do you want to do? What professors are doing it in the field? Can you go to some conferences now and start to meet people and like the big people in your field or the people who are presenting at conferences? Meet them and make a connection with them and see what kind of research they're doing. You may be a good fit for their program as well. All right. Also, if you are watching live, feel free to leave me any questions you have. All right. And the final question, let me find that question. Let me see. I forgot her name. Oh, Yasmin Bay asked, okay, there it is. Yasmin. They asked about competition. And I asked them to elaborate more about the type of competition. And they said competition between grad students that no one ever talks about, competition for GRAs, for writing opportunities with professors, or sounding smart in class, etc. Grad school is full of competition, but no one ever offers any advice about it. Please help us. All right, I will share my perspective and then I'll try to share a little bit of advice. So, one thing you should know about me is I am not a competitive person at all. Maybe it was because I'm an only child and I never had to really compete for anything, but I'm not really a sports person. I'm not a competitive person. Like even when I was applying for grad school, I made sure to apply for math grad programs that did not require the math subject area GRE because I knew those programs would probably be competitive and I wasn't going to thrive there. I would not like that at all. Luckily, I ended up in a program that was so collaborative, so nurturing. Everyone worked together. It was just a wonderful experience and I loved it and I wouldn't have it any other way. So me personally, I would not enjoy or thrive in a program that was competitive. However, I do have maybe a different perspective on competitiveness. I was recently interviewed by one of my students. So, one of my students in my pre calculus class, they had an assignment from another professor to interview one of their professors. And one of the questions was, how do you be competitive or stand out like in your career or in school and things like that? So I told him, I was like, I'm not competitive, but ways that I do stand out is I'm always early. I'm always showing up early. I'm applying for things early. I'm probably one of the first people to apply for anything. When I applied for grad school, I applied early. I think I applied in like October and I was accepted in November, and I wasn't even starting until August the next year. When I applied for jobs, I sent in my first application in maybe end of September, and I got multiple job offers before December, and I wasn't even graduating until May of the next year. Right? So I'm always early. So that was my first tip. Be early, be first. Number two is be kind. People always underestimate the value of kindness and compassion and just being a nice person to be around. I find that always makes me stand out. I'm naturally a kind person, and people always seem to appreciate that. So be kind. And then my third thing is to go above and beyond, right? Don't just do the bare minimum. What can you do to make someone feel a little extra special? What can you do to add a little razzle dazzle to your paper or your presentation, right? So see if you can stand out and stand out by going above and beyond. I would say sounding smart in class. I'm not sure what kind of program this is. That's never been like a priority for me. I think my priority in class was listening, learning, and if I had something to add, I would. I wasn't a person who really spoke up a lot in class. I'm a pretty shy person, and I a lot of times love to listen. Oh, sorry guys, I didn't even have the comments up. Okay, so hopefully that helped. Okay, let's see. I got a question, Bianca. I'm not sure if all PhD programs are the same, but am I able to still get a master's degree if I can't see the PhD through to completion? That's a great question. And the answer is yes, absolutely. So I went straight from undergrad to a PhD program, and I got my master's along the way. So I never applied for a master's program, but after getting so far in a PhD program, you automatically, or at least in my program, you automatically apply, you automatically qualified for a master's. So all I did was like sign a paper. So I have a MA in math, so a master's of arts in math, and it's not a master's of science because I didn't do a thesis. I just completed all of the relevant coursework and passed the qualifying exams. So even if I couldn't pass my qualifying exams, I think if I only passed one of them, I would have still been able to get a master's degree. So the answer is usually yes. You'll want to check the program, but I'm pretty sure the answer is yes. Yes. Okay. And by the way, oh, congratulations. You passed your oral defense yesterday. Amazing. I would like to say, by the way, my name actually is Toyin, Toyin, and not Toya, but it's a mistake that happens all the time. But congratulations on passing your oral defense. I know that's an amazing feeling. I hope that you did take a bit of time to celebrate, maybe treat yourself to a nice dinner, have a quiet night in or something. And so now it's on to the IRV process to collect data. Amazing. The IRV process is no joke. It's one I didn't really have to experience because I don't do research on people. I did math. Okay. Anika says, I'm starting my master's in September and I'm really nervous. That's natural. I'm a first-gen grad student and already feeling the imposter syndrome. Let me tell you, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but everyone experiences imposter syndrome in grad school, just period, full stop. Everyone. And so I go into more detail into this in my free class. I have a free class called Navigating Your First Semester of Grad School. I've linked it in the description of this video. But the reason that we feel like, oh my goodness, maybe I'm not smart enough for grad school, or maybe everyone's going to be more prepared than me, and then everyone's going to find out that I'm not prepared. That's the imposter syndrome setting up. But the reason we feel that way is because everyone's background is different, right? Some people go straight to grad school from undergrad. And so that can be viewed as an advantage because these people only know school, right? They didn't have to take time off and go to work and now have to re-engage themselves in like the school process, right? There are some people who go into a PhD program that already have a master's degree. So they've already experienced grad school. So they feel like, it feels like they have like a leg up. some people go to grad school from a very prestigious undergrad. And so it's like, ooh, my school didn't have these classes that your school had. So it kind of feels like, oh my goodness, this person's going to be more prepared and better prepared for grad school. Some people have work experience. So they've like worked in the field. So they know all of these terms already before going into grad school. So they also have an advantage, right? So you probably, and then there's one more case where some students did like undergraduate research in before coming to grad school, so they have research experience. So you probably find yourself in one of those categories, and everyone is going to feel imposter syndrome for one of those categories, right? So it's not that anyone is more or less prepared for grad school, is that we just all have different backgrounds and different experiences. So everyone's just prepared in a different way, and one way is not better or worse than the other. And so the only other thing I would say is note that you will be a graduate student, emphasis on student, which means you're there to learn, right? If you knew everything already, you would already have the degree. There would be no reason for you to be in the program. So I'll end by saying it's totally normal to feel nervous. Everyone experiences imposter syndrome. You should not know everything when you get there. And I recommend asking as many questions as possible. You are there to ask questions and learn. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Okay. All right, Bianca, you're welcome. Following up, is it hard to go directly from undergrad to PhD? I don't think so. In my field, math, they it's easier to be I will say this, it's easier to be funded as a PhD student than it is as a master's student. So there is more available funding, so it's more likely that you'll get to go to graduate school and not pay any money or have to get any loans if you go to a PhD program. There is less funding available for master's programs. So there's that. I don't necessarily think it's more difficult to go to straight to a PhD program than a master's program, but it definitely depends on the program. I will say for me as a mathematician, getting a master's in math is exactly the same classes and process as getting a PhD. You just do less of it. So it's like the same prep will help you in either case. So it definitely depends on the program, but if you do know that you want to get a PhD, I would recommend applying to PhD programs. And if you apply for a PhD program and they don't think you're ready for the PhD, they may offer and say, do you want to get a master's first instead? Or, like I've seen in math, they'll have you take undergraduate courses to catch up before you start your program. So definitely talk to people. Don't be afraid to reach out to the program and ask them questions. All right. Or you may want to consider a graduate certificate or a certification program that is a specialization in a PhD program. Is this possibly an answer to that one question about multidisciplines? This is definitely an option for sure. And no problem. You treated yourself to a meal. Love that. Everyone does experience imposter syndrome, but you are a student and you are not supposed to know everything. 100%. Said from a graduate student. Yes, you are so welcome. Okay, what are your thoughts on postdoc opportunities and publishing opportunities? I would say that I am not the best person to ask this question. I was able to go straight from undergraduate into my full-time faculty position. So I never had a postdoc. I never applied for any postdocs. I had a lot of teaching experience as a grad student, so I was well prepared to go into a teaching position. So the position that I have now is a lecturer. I've been promoted to senior lecturer. This means that my job is 90% teaching, 10% service, 0% research. And that is by design because I didn't really enjoy research. So I didn't want my career to involve research. So I don't publish and I have not done any postdocs. So I'm so sorry I cannot answer this question. I will say the postdocs in my program, they join a research group, they do research, and they also teach classes. I think that's all I can say because I don't know anything about the other stuff. But if anyone has any thoughts or advice about postdoc opportunities and publishing opportunities, definitely comment. in this video. Also, I would recommend Dr. Anna Clemens. So I can't remember what kind of field you're in, but Dr. Anna Clemens helps academics who study the sciences. She helps them publish their papers in prestigious journals. But yeah, sorry, that is not my expertise at all. All right. Does anyone have any other questions? Let's see. My supervisor wants me to consider doing a PhD. My goal has always been law school, but unsure if my MA will awaken a further passion to continue my research instead of working. Well, that is something to keep your eye out on. Okay. So here are my thoughts. Your goal has always been law school. So, is there anything that is keeping you from applying to law school right after undergrad, if that is the ultimate goal? Or do you think you would prefer studying and learning and being an academic over practicing law? Would you prefer like research about like certain problems and communities and things like that? So I guess first question is there anything preventing you from applying straight to law school? And then will your MA awaken a further passion to consider research? Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you do decide to get a master's degree, that is the perfect time to do some contemplation. Like, what about this process am I loving more than other parts of the process? Right? If you find that you're loving the research part, you find you love being an academic, maybe PhD is the way to go. If you find that you like the information and you kind of want to use it and practice it, maybe PhD is not the way to go. That's so interesting. Okay, you fell in love with research and you never planned to get a master's. Do you think that you would enjoy doing research forever? Like, that might be a route. Maybe PhD might be for you. If you love research, oh, there's more. If you love being in academic space, oh, yeah, I think I might be the same. I think I might recommend go to a PhD program. And if you decide it's not for you, you can always just get the master's and leave. Or you could just leave the PhD program altogether, right? You don't have to complete these things. There's not going to be a note on your like resume that you write yourself. I didn't finish this PhD program. It's like my interests changed, or I realized what my interests truly were. So I decided to go after them. But it kind of sounds like you might enjoy a PhD. You can always apply to both. Apply to master's programs, apply to PhD programs, see what the funding looks like, see what the program feels like, and then you can make a decision. All right, higher ed institutions are nonprofit, right? I don't know if I know that answer. I know some schools are private and some are public. And I know the public ones are nonprofit, if I'm not mistaken. You might have to fact check me on that. My PhD is in education with a specialization in organization, research, assessment, and evaluation. Oh, that's cool. Hopefully, this will lead to being an evaluator. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, I wonder if there are any like specialized postdocs that you can look into, because some postdocs have a very heavy research focus and some postdocs are very like teaching focused. Maybe there are also postdocs that are very service focused or kind of like practical focused. And maybe it's not even called a postdoc at all, right? So many different things have different names. So I would recommend kind of looking around and seeing what's out there. Like maybe it's called a limited term assistant professorship. Maybe it's called a consultant. Maybe it's like the person that works with the school or something like that. I don't know all the words for these things, but I know that there are different types of positions for different fields, and every school names things differently. So I would say look around and also talk with other evaluators. So hopefully you know a few other people who are evaluators. Ask them about their career path and maybe what they wish they would have done, what path they wish they would have taken, or is the path that they took the one that was most successful for them. Yes, so the Facebook is called, if you just type into Facebook, the Academic Society for Grad Students, you'll see it. There'll be like 3 questions to answer, and then you'll be welcomed in the group. I forgot to put it in the description already, and actually, let me put it in the chat here. If I can, let's see. All right, hopefully that link works. That's like the URL, but the group is actually called the Academic Society for Grad Students. Okay. This makes me wonder. I graduate with my DNP in nurse midwifery in December. Congratulations. And wonder if I can do research from home or would I need a PhD? I don't think you need a PhD to do research. I think that if you want your job to be, I don't know. Let's see. I don't know anything about nursing. I'm going to preface there. I don't think you need a PhD to do research. I think you could probably join a research group in a hospital or like be support for other research groups. I imagine if the research you're doing is based on data, you can do that at home. That's what I would imagine. Um, Again, not an expert in this field as well. Okay, public institutions are nonprofit, perhaps. Perhaps. I don't know. Do you have to apply for funded separately when applying for a doctoral program? Yes and no. So when you get accepted, your program will say, we can offer you this, right? Some schools have already applied for funding on behalf of their students. For example, in the math department, most graduate students are funded through teaching assistantships. So graduate students teach courses, and that is how they are funded to pay for their grad school education. Sometimes they will tutor, sometimes they will grade. So your department will likely have teaching assistantships, research assistantships that they can connect you with, and that will be in your acceptance package. Alternately, there are also university jobs on campus called graduate assistantships. So maybe you might work for the athletic department, or maybe you work for admissions. And that's something that I think you might have to apply for separately, but that's at the school. And then there's also like national fellowships or fellowships from like organizations like NSF funding and things like that. And you definitely will apply for that separately. So the answer is yes and no. For example, when I got accepted to my grad program said, we have this fellowship. And if you accept our offer to get a PhD here, you will receive this funding with this stipend. So I didn't have to apply for any external funding. And they said, once this fellowship is over, you will then become a graduate teaching assistant. So you will be paid through that way. Hopefully that answers the question. Awesome. I get nervous about answering questions I don't know anything about. You're welcome. All right, you guys, are there any final questions before we go here today? Thanks for joining me and chatting with me. This was fun. I will give you a heads up. Be on the lookout. If you are on my email list, you will get an email about this. If you're not on the email list, just sign up for anything on my website. If you go to theacademicsociety.com/free, the link is in the description. You'll be on my email list if you sign up. But I will send out an email probably Monday about my Back to Grad School challenge. And this is a challenge that I host every single semester, fall and spring, to help grad students get back into the swing of things, set realistic goals, and create a productive weekly schedule they can follow throughout the whole semester. It's always a fun experience. It happens in my Facebook group. I go live every day. At the end, I do a masterclass on procrastination and burnout. So be on the lookout. It's not ready to sign up for yet, but when it is, I will share links everywhere. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day. I will see you next time. Bye.